game, but only way to find out is to get right into the action and see how it all starts between these two phenomenal players.
Not seeing it in the lead, a combination of Amoonguss and Thunderous. Not bad. And then Raichu and Kingdra. Not the usual pairing we see, actually, but the Raichu is going to cause problems for this Thunderous.
Yeah, one of the things that I really like about Raichu is the fact that you do have this ability to use that fake out. Then you can also kind of reposition if you don't feel like you're in a phenomenal position with that Raichu with Volt Switch. Plus, you've got that Lightning Rod ability as well on the Raichu. So just in case you do have all these water-type Pokemon, what better way to redirect some of that super effective damage away than with that ability?
Raichu's going to be keeping Kingdra safe for a little bit. Of course, it's not too worried about electric-type attacks, but it's certainly something that you want to not take that damage and maybe switch in the Politoed, kind of free of charge, and make sure it doesn't get caught by anything like that. We are going to get to look at another Thunderous, though, Dynamaxing, and when we saw it earlier in the day, I know I was impressed about it and the way it operated, so we'll be able to see if it gets the same value in this game.
Yeah, for sure. I think that that's kind of exactly what needs to happen when you do bring a Thunderous to this kind of matchup. Perfect opportunity to Dynamax it and try to get some of those Airstream boosts and other things that are going to be really beneficial to your other supportive Pokemon. But Juan's also going to be Dynamaxing here. It's that Kingdra that is going to be able to take the field. And I think this is going to be a great start for Juan.
Yeah, fake out landing into Amoonguss takes away any nonsense in the first turn, and there it is, the max airstreams you were talking about.
Gonna do a really big amount of damage to Raichu there, but not quite enough to be able to knock it out. Raichu is holding on to an Assault Vest, which is not gonna be like super helpful in this situation, but we do see the Max Geyser now coming out from Kingdra, able to fire back, and it goes right into the Thunderous. The Thunderous isn't going to be too safe for too much longer.
Absolutely not. The Thunderous can't take another one of those. And the Rain is set up for itself. So Kingdra showing off what Dynamax can do. It gets access to Swift Swim just by being, you know, in its own Rain. You don't have to bring the Politoed. If you're comfortable enough around turn 1, being able to set things up and set your own Rain up for Swift Swim, good for you. You can then bring something like the Raichu, which keeps the Thunderous off your case a little bit. Of course, the Amoonguss now is going to be able to look to apply some kind of awkward pressure with Rage Powder, but the pressure isn't going to be off for too long if you're just taking many attacks.
Yeah, Rage Powder will draw away a little bit of that attention, but Raichu with its second hit from the Max Airstream is going to go down. But let's see what happens for the rest of this turn.
Yeah, I mean, the Thunderous is still very fast, still putting down a lot of damage. Obviously taking some recall there from its Life Orb as well. And there's Amoonguss showing off once again just how good its item choices can be. Looks like Kingdra's trying to kind of match what Thunderous is up to, seen what it's been doing, said, no, I would like boosts of my own as well, please.
Yeah, you're going to have to, because even with Kingdra's ability of Swift Swim and setting the Rain for itself, Thunderous moved first after that just one Max Airstream boost. So something that Juan is going to have to be very conscientious of and really make sure that the Thunderous isn't too ever present in this match.
Yeah, Thunderous needs to get knocked out quickly, I think. I mean, it could just set up another Max Airstream, but what's curious about like Max Airstream over some of the other options in game for speed controllers, it only applies to those Pokemon. So if those Pokemon are taken out of play, those boosts aren't present anymore. And obviously, speed boosts on Amoonguss aren't that big a deal. And once the Thunderous is removed, then, you know what? That's a huge amount of investment that you're going to lose out on. You've got the Rain set up from the Max Geyser in turn number 1. And then if you run out of that, you can just set up the Rain again with a potential Politoed in the back if you need to. So plenty of options here as Entei is the one playing it safe this turn. This is a Pokemon I haven't seen in a very long time, and I'll be curious to see how it gets played over the kind of course of this set.
Yeah, I think Entei is a really neat Pokemon just because you can use it in such a supportive fashion, especially also just being able to tank some of these hits that are coming out of this Thunderous with the Protect that it has, but it also gets access to moves such as Sacred Fire, which does have that ability to burn Pokemon. So I think that ends up being a great choice for a lot of teams, especially when you are going against such physical attackers like Glastrier and Metagross in this meta. But Kingdra firing off that Max Geyser into Amoonguss is going to secure the knockout. And while we do see some Life Orb recoil come through, not too bad. I would say that's a pretty good trade.
No, I mean, both trainers have Dynamaxed, and both trainers have got pretty good value out of the Dynamax as well. There is, of course, one extra Max Airstream boost over on the side of the Thundurus, but no more. And as soon as that Thundurus is gone, it's back to this Kingdra kind of being in charge and being able to run the game a little bit. So certainly interesting to see the Thundurus just Max Airstreaming, not trying to set up anything else, not trying to get any knockouts either. The Kingdra has felt very, very safe throughout the duration of this game.
Yeah, it has felt really, really safe. And I feel like that has been doing a lot of wonder for Juan and their game plan for this particular matchup, just because you got to be able to kind of match what your opponent is bringing. And as we were seeing in just matches previous, how much damage that Thundurus is able to bring to the table, it's really great that Juan has been able to match that and bring pressure of their own with that Kingdra.
I think the way that Juan played the game, though, bringing the Raichu in early, just made Heriberto play in such a strange fashion that he didn't want to, that he was causing a lot of problems. And speaking of causing problems, Juan looks like he's able to start swinging the game very much in his favor. That Entei doing monstrous damage.
Yeah, Entei, just with the extreme speed alone, having that priority on the move, just be able to move before that Thundurus is going to be really impactful, knocking it out and making sure that Thundurus isn't going to be able to fire off another attack here. But knockoff does come through, revealing that Entei was carrying that Shukaberry.
And the Shukaberry could be an interesting little thing to note for later, if he is relying on ground-type moves. And we have Chandelure. We said at the top of the game that it doesn't particularly like rain teams. And it's Chandelure in the rain against a Kingdra with a lot of boosts, or a lot of speed boosts in the rain.
I thought you would have been a little bit more excited about seeing Chandelure on the field, Adam.
I like Chandelure, just not in this context. I think this as a fourth Pokemon is a curious choice from Heriberto, and something that is going to be hard to kind of say is the key reason this team has been functioning. I think in other games and other matchups it's obviously been important, but right now not looking so peachy. The Kingdra left it alone and went after the Rillaboom. That was nice, landing a Hurricane there, but this Entei still gets to move first, and yeah, lands the Stone Edge, and quite quickly wraps this game up.
Yeah, Focus Sash is going to allow Chandelure to fire off a Shadow Ball here, but oh, it's not enough to knock out Entei, and that means that Heriberto's last and final Pokemon is going to be that 1 HP Chandelure.
It's only got to get through 3. It's got to get through Kingdra, which is low, Entei, which is low, and a mystery Pokemon, which is obviously full health. So not much to ask of the Chandelure, and it's getting some recovery. You know, a little bit of recovery every single time. The rain's gone, so that's something in Chandelure's favor. But overall, Juan's in such an advantageous position here. He's really got the game so far in his favor through those early turns.
Well, let's see whether or not that Spore does come to fruition, and if that is going to be something that does get weaved into this game. Let's jump into game number 2 and see how it all turns out, as similar leads now coming out with that Thundurus and the Amoonguss, with Kingdra and Raichu once again, so really not straying away from the formula.
Yeah, really comfortable in exactly what worked in game number 1 for Juan. Interesting to see Heriberto not make any changes there. I would expect something to change a little bit, and in this case it kind of has to be his game plan and strategy in this one. So I'll be curious to see how he decides to try and wiggle his way out of the early turns a little bit differently than we saw in game number 1.
Yeah, well, Thundurus is going to be Dynamaxing early on once again from Heriberto's side of the field. Should be able to do some good things here, but we'll see whether or not Juan decides to match that with a Dynamax of his own. And yep, there it is. Kingdra also going to be able to get that Dynamax factor, and we are seeing a very similar style of play and a similar game plan to that of game number 1.
Right, it's the same thing over again. Kingdra is the focal point of the team, Thundurus is the focal point of the team, and particularly in the lead. So let's just get that one going and try and get that down as well as possible. Look, Raichu does it again. He just decides to deal with the Amoonguss.
As a max airstream comes out for the Thunderous and it goes into the Raichu again. So I'm doing just a little bit more damage, but Raichu is still able to hold on through it all and stick around on the field for at least one more turn. But as we saw before, this one boost from Thunderous makes it mighty speedy. Even with the Max Geyser coming out from Kingdra to set the rain, Thunderous is still going to be able to move first.
Yep, this is an exact run back of game number 1. Just going through the motions again. I want a speed boost. I want my Swift Swim boost. It does kind of leave the Raichu a little bit at sea, not getting the boost for him. You know, it'd be nice to get the boost onto Raichu with a Max Airstream, maybe going after that Amoonguss, breaking that Cobra Berry early on and going from there. But as we saw in game number 1, Raichu wasn't the most important thing on this team. It rarely is. It's supportive, it's distracting, and it's doing a real good job of that by absorbing those Max Airstreams right now, keeping that Kingdra a lot healthier than that Thunderous is actually.
Yeah, Kingdra is still going to be in a fantastic position like it was in game number 1, just because all the focus has been put onto the Raichu there, especially with its Lightning Rod ability. It's a Pokemon that you really want to try to get out of the way as quickly as possible, but Amoonguss is going to go for the Rage Powder here, just try to take away some of that attention from Thunderous as it is getting a little bit low, as Thunderous goes for another Max Airstream, and this time into the Kingdra though, so varying things up a little bit.
Yeah, I like that. I think going after the Kingdra, bringing it down, you know, lowering its health to the Thunderous is really key here. And Amoonguss knows it can take a Max Airstream. It can take at least one. And in this case, no Max Airstreams at all from this Kingdra. Just throwing Max Geysers out, and still a lot of damage, regardless of it being a not very effective hit.
Nuzzle comes out from Raichu into the Amoonguss. Doesn't do too much damage, but Paralysis does come through, which might stop this Amoonguss from dishing out something like that Spore that might be weaved into this game.
Yeah, the Nuzzle is going to be very important here if it gets the Paralysis. If the Amoonguss is just unable to move this turn, that's quite bad for it. You know, it won't be able to Rage Powder and make sure that Thunderous gets another kind of free turn off where it doesn't get caught by an attack. It won't be able to Spore. So Juan there does get to Nuzzle. I think he tried it last time but wasn't afforded the opportunity because of that second Max Airstream. And Heriberto kind of saying, you know what, I'm not too worried about your Raichu. I'm just going to let it stay on the field and just do what it needs to do.
Cobra Berry in preparation for this Max Airstream that's going to be coming out from the Kingdra, just to try to keep us safe, but because Amoonguss is so low, even that Cobra Berry isn't going to do enough to be able to stop that knockout from coming through. So Raichu speed as well as Kingdra's speed going to rise here, but we did see that max guard from Thunderous, so regardless of what Raichu decides to do here, which is going to be that Volt Switch, it's not going to be able to happen, and that also means that we won't see the switch come through for Raichu's slot.
Yeah, Raichu's still on the field for this one. Not able to leave right now, and it's now going to be facing off against the Rillaboom. We didn't see the Rillaboom quite this early last time. I think the game took a little bit longer to work through, and this Kingdra's a lot lower as well. I mean, last time when it tried to Grassy Glide into the Kingdra, it was a very, very healthy Kingdra, and now it's lower and definitely a lot more manageable and potentially in range for that knockout.
Dynamax has ended for both of these Pokemon now, which is going to make their health just a little bit more manageable. So maybe Rillaboom is going to be set up into a position to be able to get that knockout onto Kingdra with a priority move like the Grassy Glide. But Thunderous is still going to be one of the fastest Pokemon on the field, even with that Max Airstream boost and the Swift Swim coming in from Kingdra.
Yeah, Thunderous is still going to be absolutely rapid and pretty much unable to be handled easily. That's why the Kingdra is playing it safe, not just the Grassy Glide, but Thunderous could easily deal with it as well. Rillaboom, yeah, trying it on, but not being afforded that opportunity right now.
No, as Thunderous goes for the superpower into Raichu, gets the critical hit. Don't think that crit necessarily mattered though, as Raichu was already at lower HP, so will be knocked out here, and now Juan has to bring in another Pokemon, which was kind of the goal of that Volt Switch in that last turn.
Yeah, I mean, he gets the Pokemon in, but he's also not got Raichu for later, so he doesn't have his Fake Out safe. But he is still able, I guess, at the end of the turn to look at it and say, well, Entei's in. So it's not that bad for him here. You know, it looks like that's what he's hovering. It'll probably be a very good kind of selection here. Able to deal with the Thunderous, potentially with the Stone Edge, and then when the rain ends, could be going after this Rillaboom as well. The Rillaboom, though, is very, very healthy, and that is something to definitely be concerned about.
Yeah, I mean, Kingdra could go for a Hurricane here into the Rillaboom. We saw that did just about half health before, and maybe with the Sacred Fire coming out from Entei to double into the Rillaboom, that would be enough to pick up the knockout. But I do worry, since the rain is up, that Sacred Fire not really able to do nearly as much. But Grassy Glide comes out first. It is going to knock out Kingdra before it can use that Hurricane, and we'll also see Thundurus go for the Wild Charge here into Entei. Does about a third damage.
Yeah, it's a good amount of damage, but a lot of recoil too. Thundurus knocking itself out with the vast amount of recoil it took from the Wild Charge and the Life Orb. The Sacred Fire, even in the rain, is doing a big amount of damage.
And there's the burn as well.
Yeah, this Rillaboom is pretty much done for the rest of the game, and is definitely something I think that Juan can just kind of leave alone, right? He got the burn, you know, the Rillaboom isn't going to be able to deal huge damage to Entei at any point. And then he's just kind of stuck, right? That, you know, he has to try and deal with it as best he can. You know, with that in mind, we are going to see Juan's final Pokemon along with Heriberto's, and it's back. It's Chandelure, it's back, and it's in a much better position this time, actually. I mean, it's looking down a Rillaboom, but it's also looking down the Entei, which was causing problems. And Rillaboom, while it is a grass type, definitely has options to deal with this Chandelure, particularly when it can just leave the other Rillaboom alone because it's burned.
Yeah, Rillaboom is definitely not the target focus for Juan at the moment, just because Chandelure, well, can't be burned, but we will see the Rillaboom go for a Grassy Glide, and now you can see why that burn is so effective on Rillaboom, because it's not doing very much damage. But fire back with a Rillaboom that isn't burned even onto a Pokemon like Chandelure, plus the Stone Edge to follow it up. Focus Sash is broken here, so Chandelure is going to go down, leaving Heriberto with Rillaboom as their final Pokemon.
Yeah, it's still not Chandelure's game, I'm afraid. The type matchup looked better with a grass type there and a fire type that it could like maybe go even with, but in both the cases, they have moves that are just so good against them. Grassy Glide in grassy terrain does so much damage that Stone Edge doesn't need to worry about maybe missing. You know, you just need a little bit more. We learned that in game number 1. And being able to just double target that Chandelure there, a real big problem for Heriberto. His burned Rillaboom is not going to be able to swing this one back. And Juan Naar able to push this game through and move on in the winners.